Jesse said he's a cop, an LA cop, and your kids can't take it out of him. Well, myself, for the first 7 years of my priesthood, I taught at the high school seminary that we had in Chicago, Archbishop Quigley Preparatory Seminary for. So 7 years of my life, I taught 7 classes in a 9-period day at Archbishop Quigley. So during those days, I taught predominantly a sacred scripture. So I was known by the students at Archbishop Quigley as not Father PJ or Father Paul or Father Kalchik, but Father Nasty. Because I was the I was really hard on the boys until Christmas time, and then I would just let up a teeny weeny bit. But no, I was always very demanding as a teacher. So expect a quiz at the end of this presentation. And those who fail will get jugged. So, as a man in my 60s, I have witnessed a complete turnaround in the course of my life surrounding all things associated with the devil. When I first started university in the 70s, 44 years ago, most professors in the theology department at the University of Detroit, where I was a student, did not believe in the devil. And so, and if you would say, oh, you know, what about the devil, Professor Smith? And we don't believe in him anymore. And literally, you would be laughed at. How times have changed. Similarly, 40 years ago, despite canon laws to the contrary, most dioceses throughout the world, I corroborated this with Father Carlos Martins just this past week. We had a good couple-hour conversation talking about the development of exorcist, priest and exorcist ministry within the Church Universal. And so the good news is many bishops are waking up to the fact that we have a problem. You know, the old saying, Houston, we have a problem. Well, we have a problem because the reality of individuals suffering from severe diabolic obsession, possession has grown dramatically in the recent years, in large part because of the rampantness of serious sin. Never in the history of the world have we seen so many individuals murdered. We have millions and millions of abortions, and then we have millions and millions of other homicides. It's striking how, despite all this conversation about progress, human beings have devolved considerably over the last 100 years for this much needed ministry. When I was at Mundelein Seminary back in the 90s, when Cardinal Bernardine was the Archbishop Cardinal in Chicago, despite the size of the Archdiocese, we did not have any active priest exorcist. That has changed. After Cardinal Bernardine died, Cardinal Francis George got a decent exorcist priest ministry going. That has had its ups and downs and continues to move forward despite problems. And as well as Mundelein Seminary does now have courses that deal specifically with how to deal with the devil and evil spirits. Sadly, most of our older priests, those about my age or older, Jesse's smiling at me, we're exactly the same age. We're loved children of the 60s. Sadly, most of our older priests who had no studies in seminary about the devil or demonology persist in pretending that the devil does not exist, to their own detriment as well as to their parishioners, to the people they minister. Many people encounter over the course of day-to-day activities serious evil things playing out in their homes and their families and the community. And priests gaslight them and give them the cold shoulder. This being said, I have outlined 12 important lessons that all Catholics need to know to thwart the evil one. 12 simple lessons all of us as Catholics, lay ordained, need to have on our fingertips so as to combat the evil one, evil spirits, as they play out in our day-to-day lives. Little advertisement here. I would recommend that every layperson have on hand one of these. Jesse held this up yesterday, but one of these short little deliverance prayers for the laity. Actually, Father Chad Ripperger is an excellent writer, and he's written some really great tomes in recent years of, I got to the back of this one, but these are Minor Exorcisms and Deliverance Prayers in Latin and English by Father Chad Ripperger. Great book. If you're a student, you like to read and learn more, these are all great resources that Father Chad has spent a lot of time and a lot of hard work putting together for us to fight the evil one. So, that being said, none of us have to reinvent the wheel. We have one of the premier good priests, exorcists here in the United States, and take to heart. As Jesse was talking earlier about his latest work, so in Dominion by Chad Ripperger, this is specifically written for priests. So I haven't started it yet. It's 1,000 and some pages, so I haven't had free time. But we're going to work on what's important for us. Simple lessons all of us have to have down pat if we're going to make headway moving forward against all this evil playing out in the world. Lesson 1. Always keep in mind the devil is a subtle liar. Never, ever believe the half-truths, small deceptions, or whispers he puts into your head. We've been involved as human beings since the beginning of time with fighting the evil one. Recall the story of Eve in the Garden of Eden. The serpent in the tree spoke to her, and in a condescending voice he said, "Certainly, certainly, certainly, you will not die. Once you eat of this tree right here, you will be like gods. You will be like gods." The devil is a subtle, subtle liar. He never tells a bald-faced lie. The devil always works with innuendo, half-truths, and very, very, very small deceptions. In our own day and age, the devil is speaking broadcast live. Love is love. Yes, that love which we saw exemplified by Christ with his passion and death, dying to redeem us, is unconditional love. And that's a big thing. But, two guys shacking up, that's not love. That's just ugliness and sin and far from the truth. But people are ready to believe the lie. But all of you here, because you're smart and you're going to get an A on the test, always recall the devil is a subtle, subtle liar. Number 2. Lesson number 2. This will be on the midterm. In spiritual warfare, The devil never sleeps. Neither should you. Remain vigilant even when you sleep, and never forget before you slumber to put your guardian angel in charge over your mind and in your heart. It's one of those sad, sad things, but you have a great day and everything is going right, and then you go to bed, and then the first thing that happens after you're asleep is you get this horrible dream, weird stuff running through your mind, and you wake up with a start, and it's like, what was that all about? So it's so important for us to ask our guardian angel, we each have one, to keep an eye on our thoughts, on our subconscious, during the course of our slumber. And he will be a vigilant fighter for you. And if, God forbid, the evil one gets the better of you as you are asleep, when you wake up with a start from a bad dream and evil thoughts in your heads, quickly sit up in bed and say out loud, so that the four walls of your room can hear, a Hail Mary. Just breaking that vacuum that evil leaves in your head by saying out loud, the Hail Mary will purify your mind and send the evil spirit packing. Two lessons. The first one was, subtle liar. 2, guard yourself before going to bed. We sleep 7-8 hours if we can, and that's a lot of time for the devil to get into your head and do mischief. Number 3, it's a fallacy to think that only holy people, never get attacked spiritually. Actually, they get it worse. The difference is they've developed over time the skills to fight off their attackers. Jesse mentioned this yesterday, in Blessed Venerable Maria of Agreda in España. She's incorruptible, but over the course of her lifetime, she had many visions of our Lord, our Blessed Mother, the saints. And holy woman, but she talks about how the Blessed Mother, in the course of her earthly life, was attacked all the time. Her job was a hard one, making certain things, making certain Herod didn't get Jesus X'd out and all those kind of things. It's a fallacy on our part to think that holy people, good people, never get spiritual attacks or are demonically oppressed. In fact, they become holy people because they've learned the skills to fight well the evil one. Lesson 4. This is one of my favorites. Here we go, get the right page. 3. I was long-winded on this one. We'll keep it to the point. Lesson 4 in spiritual warfare. Don't ever imagine that there will be a time in your life in which there will be no temptations. Just put that out of your mind. Until you breathe your last breath, the devil will be throwing things at you to get you to stumble and to succumb to temptation and to sin. The devil just changes the temptations over time. For example, when you're a young guy, you think, oh, if I can only get past these sins of the flesh, I'll have it made. I'll be like St. Francis or something like along those lines. Remember how St. Francis early on suffered from temptations of the flesh? He was one of those guys that tried, this is really bad tonight, so I'm just going to go outside and roll in the snow. And it worked for him. So St. Francis, early on, if you read closely his life, struggled a lot, like any guy does, with temptations of flesh. He also threw himself into a rose bush once, but I do not advise that for anybody. Over time, St. Francis of Assisi got past temptations of the flesh. Did the devil just give up because he didn't get him that way? No, he flung different things at him. About actually 3 years ago exactly now, 3 years ago on July the 10th, my mother passed away. And in the aftermath of my mother's death, like losing the loss of anyone is a hard time, but you go through a period of remorse and grief and the rest of it. But a really, 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 really strange temptation came my way. So, and it played out like this. So I got into bed one night, and the first thing I was under the covers is like, gosh, I just can't stop itching. It was like my whole body needed to be scratched. It was just horrible. And so I got out of bed. It's like, I must have touched something, when I was outside, or, some allergic reaction to some bramble or something. So I got out and took a shower and, put on good, fresh bedclothes, and then went to bed. Within a half an hour, the scratching just resumed. So bottom line, day one, no rest for the wicked. So I didn't sleep much at all that night because I was just and I also did the whole, let's try chamomile lotion so you pink yourself up. And that didn't stop it either. So day two, same thing happens. You get into bed and it's like, I just can't stop. This is it. Maybe I used the wrong soap to launder my sheets. So I got out and took all the sheets off the bed and got some fresh ones out of the closet, remade my bed, and then I go back in, and everything smells nice and fresh, but the itching resumed. So that was day two. So day two, I didn't get much sleep. So here I am going on 40, it's going on 3 days with no sleep. So the third night, fresh sheets on the bed, fresh shower, clean clothes. And so I get into bed and the itching resumes. And so finally it's like, maybe this is not a physical sort of thing. Father Kalchik, wake up. So I got out of bed and I said a rosary. And then, in the course of the rosary, it's like, I don't feel itchy anymore. So I got into bed and then fell asleep. What a concept, falling asleep when you're in bed. So I fell asleep. But about halfway through the night, I woke up and I was all bloody from scratching myself. So I got out of bed and said another rosary. So the first week after my mother's death, I had this horrible attack for a week of just scratching. And the only thing that remediated it was getting out of bed in the middle of the night and saying a rosary. I think the one night I said like 3 or 4 rosaries just to get some peace of mind. But that attack ended. So don't think as you go through your day-to-day lives that temptations are just going to stop, because actually they get worse as you get older and grow and mature in faith and in holiness. So lesson 4. You guys are just smoking. Lesson 5. And this is important stuff to learn, because we're not going to win this battle if we don't have these lessons down pat. I'll give the Cliff Notes versions because it's a Saturday afternoon. And I'm a good teacher and I don't want my students to fall asleep on me. Lesson 5. In spiritual warfare, always be on your guard for an attack. Always wear your brown scapular and keep a rosary in your pocket. These are both significant weapons that will send the demons packing. So, a couple of recent incidents. As a priest, after fleeing Chicago, I always go through my day-to-day business wearing my clerics. So you're in the grocery store, you're wearing your clerics. You're in the post office, you're wearing your clerics. You go to the dog kennel to pick up the dog for a friend, you're in your clerics. That being said, lots of people are under severe demonic oppression these days. So a while back I was at the post office, just there to post some packages, and just behind me, there was a long line, and just behind me there was a man who was under the influence of an evil spirit. And so the evil spirit just got louder and louder. And so everybody is like walking away, and it was all directed at me. So here I am as a priest with packages under my arm, and so like, just waiting in line. And so finally I just pulled my rosary out of my pocket and just, waiting in line. Name of the Father, Son, Holy Spirit. Hail Mary, full of grace, the Lord is with thee. And that demon shut up. Yeah, why not? He's cursing, using the F-bomb and other vulgarities, so why not? So the rosary is a powerful weapon, and as Timothy talked earlier, it's important to wear your brown scapular. The brown scapular, even though people may not see it because it's under your t-shirt or whatever, the devil will see it. He knows it's there. You're marked. Lesson 6 in spiritual warfare. The rosary is the number one tool the priest exorcist uses in an exorcism. All men and women of faith who are serious in freeing loved ones from being under the sway of the evil one need to be proficient in saying the rosary well. I know that from first-hand experience. A number of years back, we had an incident of possession in the parish. One of my parishioners, a young man, the evil spirit attempted to kill him. He jumped off of a bridge and ended up in the river, and they fished him out of the river, and he had a broken pelvis and a number of bones. But the thing was, the evil spirit was really unhappy because it did not kill him. So he was, carted to the hospital, and the family called me in. This is so funny. Funny in a sick sort of way, but the family calls me to the house. Father Paul, we don't know what to do. Miguel's in the hospital. He's in restraints. Apparently he tried to kill himself and blah, blah, blah. Mom's there praying with him, and it's crazy here. So, you get there, and I get into the elevator going up to this locked ward they had at the hospital, and the chaplain, little woman, Protestant chaplain's there. And she looks at me as a priest, and I've got my books and stuff, and we're all ready to go. And she's like, "More power to you, Father." The Protestant chaplain at this hospital, the chaplaincy department, had nothing to do with the exorcism, the freedom of that young man from this demon. The good news was his parents, very faithful, devout Latinos. His mother never left his side. His mother stayed in their room even during the worst machinations that the evil one could throw. So the Blessed Mother's presence was pivotal in freeing him from deliverance of that evil spirit. So the evil spirit left him after full Monty for about 5 days. And then for 17 days, he did not speak a word, became totally compliant to all the nurses, the restraints, all of this stuff could be removed. And after 17 days, he started to speak all at once. And it's like, oh, why am I here? how'd I break my pelvis? Had no recollection of any of it. So one of the blessings oftentimes with individuals who are demonically possessed is they really don't quite, God sort of clears that. So always carry a rosary. It's a powerful weapon. 7. Seven isn't my favorite, and I'll tell you why. In spiritual warfare, it's so important to discern what spirits you are dealing with in the course of your day-to-day life, to discern the difference between the voice of God, the Holy Spirit, as compared to other spirits and lost souls. That's a big sentence. Complex sentences are not good for teachers to use because you lose your students when you're talking about them. There are evil spirits that harass people, that try to make people sin. Demonic entities that try to thwart us in doing God's most holy will. In the summer of 2018, the year 2018 was great at Resurrection Parish where I was pastor. That spring, in April, we had 77 for the sacrament of confirmation of the parish. We had a like number for First Holy Communion. We had 18 marriages that year and probably about 200 baptisms that year. At a Latino parish, we have lots of babies. We like to have babies and we like to baptize our babies. It's a great thing. August, just a couple weeks before the Father Montalbano's banner was burnt, I had a Sunday with 18 baptisms. We had 3 sets of baptisms, one in Spanish, followed by an English one, followed by another Spanish one, just to cover the bases on that Sunday because, it's a couple, the baby's a month old and you want to get the baby baptized. It's all good. The reason why things went berserk was because all of that great stuff that was happening at Resurrection Parish. So sadly, despite all that good stuff that myself as pastor and we had 5 deacons at Resurrection Parish, so we had and they were great catechists and teaching the kids. But Resurrection Parish is now closed in Chicago, despite it having being solidly in the black, great sacramental count. There's no reason that parish had to be closed, but it was closed. So evil's playing out. The evil one is really upset. So the entire month before I fled Chicago and before Lori Lightfoot went on my case, and despite the protests outside of the parish, we had all this weird stuff happen. For example, dismissal one Wednesday afternoon. I'm in the middle of the street, ready for the 3 o'clock bell to sound, and so the kids to start running amok. So I'm just waiting in the street. There's no cars coming, so I'm just waiting in the street. I got my little vest on. It's important. Father Kalchik is standing. You can't miss me, anyways. But I have my yellow vest on, and all at once, a super branch it was a perfectly still day, and a perfectly healthy tree. One big branch comes. And the witness is like, what's going on here? It's like, there's some invisible hand that hates you. And so it's like, he missed. So that was an evil spirit trying to thwart what we were trying to do there at Resurrection Parish. That very same week, I was going home on an evening down the boulevard, which is, Chicago has these big boulevards. 2 lanes going south, 2 lanes going north. I'm driving south. And all at once, a car is coming right at me with the windows rolled down and kids in it. You could say they were playing the game of chicken, but they were coming straight at me. So I swerved over as much as I could to stay on the road. And then they just missed me, but they twirled around because it's 4 lanes of traffic. So they did a U-E to chase me up the drive, screaming and shouting. And they lost control of the car and went into the park alongside the road and hit dead on to a tree. So, I a little bit up the road, I parked the car and, see the steam and smoke coming out. And so it's like, 911, we have, and then I just went home. Individuals who've let evil into their hearts, evil spirits can take control. So it's no accident that, as I speak now, this year alone, Chicago has had over 700 murders. So the evil one, those are evil spirits that get into people and try to hurt good, God-fearing people. Okay, we all know those kind of evil spirits that can plague us at times and make sounds in the night. There are other sorts of souls, lost souls, souls in purgatory that can make sounds in the night. So that's why discernment is so important. If you read closely the lives of the saints, the Curé of Ars, St. John Vianney, Padre Pio. Padre Pio, when he was saying Mass, was always beset with visions of souls in purgatory, deceased friars, people he knew that were requesting his prayers. So they would do strange things like snuff out his candles. If you were looking closely when we were doing adoration here, we had the leaning altar. For whatever reason, the whole altar was going down like this. So that's why benediction was very quick tonight here. In my own family, I come from a large family. Both of my parents had 12 brothers and sisters, so I've got lots of cousins and stuff. On the one hand, not horrible, evil people, but on the other hand, not saints either. So souls in purgatory do reach out to us, family members, for prayers because they need our prayers. Recall the story of Dickens' The Christmas Carol with Scrooge and Marley. Dickens was an Anglican Catholic, and Marley was actually a soul in purgatory. He had all these chains. He had to make atonement for his evil life, and he was reaching out in a good way to his friend, Scrooge, so that Scrooge would not suffer the same fate of being stuck in purgatory forever. So, that being said, just recently I had taken a trip to, we'll start at the beginning. In my residence where I live in Michigan, beautiful residence, and it's blessed and whatnot, but I have a lost soul in purgatory that's always reminding me to pray for him. And I think I know who it is, because when I say prayers, offer Mass for him, it's easier. But he likes to open up my kitchen drawers. So you come into my kitchen, and you're just there, what am I going to make for dinner? And then the drawer flings open. It's not like in a horror movie where the knives come out, but he just flings the drawer. It's sort of playful. It's the same way with the grandfather clock. He'll stop the pendulum on the clock so it doesn't work. Or at times he'll make the kitchen faucet run, things like that. Nothing horrible, but on the other hand, nothing over the top. It's just like, oh, okay, I'll remember to put you down for Mass tomorrow. This is really funny because I went to Texas beginning of June. So I go to Texas and have my meeting and talk with friends and all that kind of good stuff. So I'm staying in a hotel. So in the middle of the night, I get up, turn the light, and every single drawer was open in that hotel room. As if, just to make certain, let's open them all. Don't you forget it, Father Paul, don't you be forgetting about praying for us. So there are evil spirits that seek to thwart your work as a disciple of Christ, to thwart you in the mission of saving souls, to thwart you at fulfilling. That is one important lesson to learn. And we do not do as much praying for souls in purgatory as we used to just a few years ago. When I was a little kid, my grandmother was always praying for family members in purgatory. Okay, we're going to wrap this up. 1, 2, 3. Lesson 8. Or actually lesson 9, because we covered lesson 8. Lesson 9, in spiritual warfare, have your home, your business, your farm blessed. These blessings make all the difference in keeping the evil one at bay. In my residence in Chicago, I have a sideline priest living there now in my flat in Chicago, and I have the icons of Sacred Heart of Jesus and the icon of the Immaculate Heart of Mary that my great-great-grandfather bought after fleeing Europe when the Germans took over. So he came to the United States with a sizable amount of gold, and one of the first things he bought, in addition to a piece of land in Michigan, was these 2 icons. And so we still have those in the family. It's made all the difference in keeping God's blessings upon our family. Lesson 10. Lesson 10, I just gave you a little brief introduction to. Don't be surprised when an evil spirit conspires to thwart you from doing God's will. It's par for the course when you're in the thick of the battle that the evil one will try to take you out. Strive always to be in a state of grace. That's one of the reasons why we had confessions going on here today. When you are in a state of grace, the devil can throw a whole lot of stuff at you, but he cannot hurt you. You know, as Jesus said, you know, they can take your life, but you will be with me forever in paradise. So strive always to be in a state of grace and avail yourself of the sacrament of reconciliation as often as you can. And most times as you grow in relationship with Christ and holiness, our sins are not sins of commission as much as they are sins of omission. It's becoming preoccupied with ourselves. Home stretch. 2 more lessons to learn. Lesson 11. In spiritual warfare, practice the virtue of humility. This virtue will fortify your armor and make it impervious to attacks of the devil. This is why our Blessed Mother Mary was so successful in never sinning. She was humble. No pride whatsoever. So all virtues to work on a day-to-day basis is one of taking the lower seat at the table, trying to put all thoughts of grandeur and grandiosity out of your head. Wrote an article that'll be coming up at Church Militant this coming week on narcissism. Since the advent of the internet and the cell phone, the frequency of individuals with severe cases of narcissism has just exponentially skyrocketed. It's unbelievable. It's almost a 20% increase in the last 20 years of individuals with really, really bad narcissism. So anything you can do to remind yourself as you go through the course of your day-to-day activities to be humble, like St. Francis of Assisi, our Blessed Mother, the Curia of Ars, do so. And I save the best for last. Lesson number 12. Recall the great story of Wizard of Oz, written by Frank Bloom. Frank Bloom was a Chicagoan like myself, actually lived in the neighborhood where I've lived most of my life. He wrote The Wizard of Oz from a knoll looking downtown at the city center, the Emerald City, the city of skyscrapers. Recall what Glenda, the good witch, said to the wicked witch of the West. Be gone, you have no power here. That's something we have to say to the devil every single day of our life. Be gone. I am a son of God, made in the image and the likeness of the Almighty. I have been baptized. I have received the sacraments of the church. I am in a state of grace. Be gone, you have no power over this person. Of all things that we can do in our battle against the evil one is just to be upfront with him and say, get out of here. You have no power over me. So, you're playing messing with my head? Get out of my head. You've been messing with my head for X 20 minutes now. Well, I might as well just get on my knees and say some prayers. This is not rocket science. Our tools are real ones, and they are effective, and they are powerful. And the best tool we have is our voice. It's one of those problems with the Protestant Reformation. Somehow Protestants got Catholics into saying their prayers quietly. Before 4 centuries ago, Catholics never said their prayers quietly. It just wasn't done. You were expected when you prayed, to say it aloud. They say, "Oh, well, I'm talking to my inner God." It's just off. So, people are always saying, "Oh, Father, I have such trouble with concentration when I'm praying." How do you pray? It's like, what do you mean? How do I pray? How do you pray? Do you pray your prayers out loud? Like Jesus says, go to your room, shut the door, and say your prayers. So he says, say your prayers. He doesn't say, whisper them to yourself so nobody hears. So, of all things to fight against, especially when bad stuff is going on in your head, is just to say your prayers loud and proud in a good way. So, those are your 12 lessons. You all remember them? Simple works.